Group 4's general consensus of the Milton's Paradise Lost books are as follows. Milton opened the poem Paradise Lost by stating that what the subject of the poem was, which was humankind's first act of disobedience, which of course everyone is familiar with, and the consequences that followed. Milton chooses a muse that was different than the more traditional muses other poets used. He specified that the muse he had chosen was the one that had inspired Moses to gain the 10 Commandments and write the book of Genesis. Milton's muse is the Holy Spirit, which was apart from the 9 muses he had to choose from. Milton asked the Holy Spirit to fill him with the knowledge of the beginning of the creation of the world. He uses the Holy Spirit as a muse because of the big impact he has in the Christian religion and provides him with first-hand information that no human has ever had access to, which gives Milton a big sense of authority. According to Milton's announcer, he wants to be filled with this valuable information because he wants to show and explain that the fall of man was part of God's plan for the world. This poem was about the devil's perversion of what God had intended. Even though he tries to alter God's plan, as Milton writes, this too is a part of God's plan that involves the devil himself and how even his action to go towards God's purpose. Satan was jealous of the vast power God had. The devil, being of immense hubris, would reign over hell as king before bowing down to God as his servant. Satan was a great angel before he fell out of God's grace. The devil is the embodiment of evil, and as all battles between good and evil go, good always wins. Satan's portrayal has been disparaged over the years as drawing attention away from the story, but without it, it would be all the harder to grasp the point that Book 2 tries to make. God is not pompous. He is just right, and most people cannot comprehend the way he works. The old cliche, God works in mysterious ways, is very helpful when we want to try and explain his action. Even though we may perceive his action as unfair and cruel sometimes, even towards Satan, his actions are always right, with a righteous purpose, and work for the greater good. Milton seems more a follower of Martin Luther than of Calvin. He doesn't seem to be a fan of predestination, rather opting for the view that men are in charge of their own salvation through their belief in God. Man shall not quite be lost, but saved, who will yet not of will in him, but grace in me. I think that Book 3 does a good job of helping you understand Milton's overall purpose and seeing that he is following in through the books. He does a good job of laying out God's eternal plan for humankind and then showing his readers Satan's role in God's plan, truly setting up the good versus evil battle. The reason that scholars would probably say this about Milton's writing would be because he goes as far as to put words into God's mouth. He takes a big risk when he makes God and Jesus into 2 separate characters in the poem. Milton did not believe in the Holy Trinity, God, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit. So the fact that he split Jesus and God up and completely laid out God's plan for humans was interesting. Milton does make Satan look powerful, but he does that so we can all understand how powerful God is. God won the battle and continues to win the battle against Satan. He is omnipotent and always going to be in control of the world. He created, and I think that is why the world he created, and I think that is why he made Satan appear as powerful as he did in the story, so that we could comprehend their powers. Satan has somewhat changed from Book 1 because in Book 4, his character is somewhat deeply affected by jealousy and despair, which is different from the confidence in his rebellion that he was feeling earlier in the poem. He is feeling despair when he witnesses the beauty of paradise, which impairs his confidence and also makes him realize all God is capable of doing. After Satan notices Adam and Eve walking upright in the Garden of Eden, the pain and jealousy he was previously feeling greatly intensifies as he watches the new beautiful race God had created shortly after Satan and his angels had been cast out of heaven. He starts off as an enormous evil figure, which throughout the poem slowly goes from predatory animals to a small toad to whisper into Eve's ear. I feel Milton wrote and portrayed Satan this way was to reflect the feelings Satan was feeling. He went from being so confident the large evil figure to slowly doubting his rebellion and considering apologizing, knowing he can't and never will, which was finally the small toad. Milton implies in Book 4 that he believes that the love of that Adam and Eve made in the beginning was still pure because lust had not yet come into their lives. It was real love that they were making and not just having sexual pleasures because they lusted for each other. Sin had not yet entered the world, and Milton makes that very clear with this statement about Adam and Eve making love and not just having sex. As a modern-day feminist, I would have to say that Milton makes himself out to sound like a major sexist in this book. He makes his opinion well known when he shows the way Eve acts toward Adam. He does not see men and women as equals at all. He thinks that a woman should always submit to not only God, but also her husband. Milton does not hide his feelings about unequal sexual statutes within a marriage. I really do not feel like Eve is being treated fairly by Adam because he feels in control of her. But at the same time, we would have to say that it was a completely different time then. In the time of the Bible, the women were always to submit to and listen to their husbands. That is not the way the world is now. So it is hard for us to imagine having to listen to a man that we are married to the same way we would our father. That question is hard for us to fully comment about because of that difference.